going to speak now to Kimberly Dienes, who's a lecturer in clinical and health psychology at Swansea University. She's researching the impact of lockdown and social distancing on those living through the pandemic. Kimberly, thank you very much for being with us. What has your research suggested about the value of the bubble system?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And I think social isolation really goes against biological and psychological needs in all of us. And research shows that positive social support both decreases stress and it improves immunity. We've been speaking to people since the beginning of lockdown, since March of 2020. And we saw the negative mental health impacts of social isolation as soon as we started: increased depression, increased anxiety, especially in those who are living alone. That mental health improved over the summer, and it was still okay during the circuit breakers. But now with the third lockdown, it's worsening again, and we're seeing something kind of like a learned helplessness, especially in those who are living alone. So social support is something that is very important for all of us.
We see, obviously, in the winter, people who, for example, suffer from the lack of sunlight and actually have a real measurable mental health deterioration on darker, shorter days. The other interesting aspect of this, I suppose, is because we all say, well, there's Zoom and there's the other technologies that wouldn't have been available even 20 years ago for people who've been trapped in similar circumstances. But none of that substitutes for touch, does it? Somebody was talking to me, a therapist not so long ago, about the importance of what she described as skin hunger. And how are people dealing with the fact they can't touch, they can't hug, they can't embrace?
I think that's a really interesting point that you bring up, and it's something that has been shown in research over and over again. If you look at children, skin-to-skin contact or kangaroo care is something they found over and over again is important in newborns, in children when they're born, and it's true for all of us. Something as simple as holding someone's hand actually decreases your biological reactivity to stress. So it changes your stress hormones just to hold someone's hand. Little kids know that, right? They grab your hand. Yes.
Yeah, I'll never forget one of my father saying that one of his brother-in-law's grandchildren, she made the two men hold hands when they walked down the street. She couldn't understand why the men and women were holding hands and the women were holding hands. She made the two men hold hands. And he said actually it was quite comforting, even for a man of his age, that closeness. And it must have really exaggerated that for people over the last year or so, particularly the elderly perhaps, who may be widows or widowers, who have not had the physical contact with their children and grandchildren that have helped keep them mentally stable.
Absolutely. I have a 77-year-old mother in America that I talk to twice a week, and she has been alone since March. And the one that she says is she just wants a hug. And she said that over and over again. And in our research, we've talked to people over and over again about how they need that contact, and I think support couples do provide that. And that people are really kind of having this low-level depression, this loss of control, this loss of agency that they're feeling, especially with the mixed messages. I think you heard a little bit about that and what Hope is saying there. That loss of control, that loss of agency can be buffered or protected against with something as simple as social support, as being around people, and Zoom and computers can't change that the same way that social contact can.
Kimberly Dienes, it's fascinating to talk to you. Perhaps we'll have a chance to talk again once your research is completed post-pandemic and we can see what the overall pattern is, the long-term impact has been. For now, thank you very much. It raises an intriguing thought, that, doesn't it? With all the virtual reality technology, if somebody could develop a way of having a digital hug where you felt as if you were being hugged by the person, wouldn't that be something? If there was such a thing, I would give a digital hug to Catherine Downs at the BBC Sports Centre, but